Russia's signals are far from reality. Zelensky denies Trump is pressuring him over Donbas. EU foreign policy chief calls possible Putin visit to Hungary not nice. And why Trump isn't Russian with Tomahawks. The latest news next. Ukraine does not rule out that the meeting between US President Donald Trump and Russian dictator Vladimir Putin in Budapest could end with a bad scenario for Kiev, President Volodymyr Zelensky said during a meeting with journalists on October 9th, according to an RBC Ukraine correspondent. In particular, he once again emphasized that he would be ready to take part in the summit if invited.
If it is an invitation in a format where we meet as three, or shuttle diplomacy, President Trump meets with Putin, and President Trump meets with me. Then, in one format or another, we will agree.
At the same time, Zelensky does not rule out that the meeting in Budapest may go according to a bad scenario. For example, that Trump and Putin might try to reach an agreement behind Ukrainians' back and put forward unacceptable conditions for Kiev.
Even when it seems that you are in a dead end, it is not that dead. The second point is that you should never do anything bad for your own home. And that is the priority. If the configuration is one where America is in the middle, that is one story. But if the configuration is such that pressure is placed only on Ukraine, then no one will come out as a winner. We will not give victory to the Russians.
He also added that European leaders support his position. We will meet this week. Maybe someone will come to us, maybe we will meet elsewhere with some very high-ranking officials close to Trump, the president emphasized. Brussels finds it unpleasant to see in the European capital a person subject to an arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court, ICC, said EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas, as reported by Reuters. Kallas noted that she welcomes Washington's efforts to achieve peace but emphasized the importance of a meeting between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Putin.
America has a lot of strength to pressure Russia to come to the negotiation table. If they use that then, of course. This is good if Russia stops this war.
Arrest warrant for Putin and EU position. The International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for Putin over the abduction of Ukrainian children, while Hungary is currently in the process of withdrawing from the court. Regarding Budapest, no, it's not nice to see that really a person put the arrest warrant by the ICC is coming to a European country, Kallas added. According to her, there remains the question is whether there is any outcome from such visits. Lithuania. Putin's place is in The Hague. Lithuanian Foreign Minister Kęstutis Budrys stated that there is no place for Putin in any European capital. The only place for Putin in Europe is in The Hague, in front of the tribunal, not in any of our capitals, he said before the start of the ministers' meeting. EU prepares new sanctions package against Russia. Kaja Kallas also stated that the European Union is preparing to adopt the 19th package of sanctions against Russia. According to her, the final approval of the measures is expected within a week, but not on Monday. US President Donald Trump announced that he plans to meet with Vladimir Putin in Budapest. When asked who chose Budapest at the meeting location, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt snapped at the journalist, saying, "Your mom did." Russian dictator Vladimir Putin still wants Ukraine to hand over the Donetsk and Luhansk regions to him, but US President Donald Trump is not pressing on this matter. President Volodymyr Zelensky told reporters how he had to fight with Witkoff. According to Zelensky, Ukrainians' position remains firm. Nothing will be given to the aggressor. He explained this both to Trump and his special envoy Steve Witkoff.
We understand that Mr. Witkoff is simply conveying what Russia means. That doesn't mean it's his opinion. At least, that's what he says.
He also told Witkoff about the misleading impression as the Russians claimed that people in Donbas wanted to join Russia in the pseudo-referendums, but there is a nuance.
First, there was the occupation. And only then did something uncontrolled and obviously illegal happen. What they called a referendum. And I say that these Russian signals are so far from reality that between the start of the occupation and the so-called referendum, 10 years passed.
Zelensky also said that he had to shut down Witkov's argument that Russia had included Ukrainian regions in its constitution.
If tomorrow Putin adds something else after this or that end of the war, will we again have to withdraw from some territory? And if I add 2 Russian regions to the constitution of Ukraine, will they withdraw from those territories? This is a non-working model.
Whether Trump urged to accept Putin's ultimatums, as Zelensky explained during the meeting, he wanted to understand exactly what the Russians want, but for now, there is no clear position. So far, this hasn't been voiced, Zelensky replied to the question of whether he discussed with Trump the Russian conditions regarding territories, the army, language, etc. Zelensky believes that if Ukraine were to agree to a bad territorial decision, then Trump and Putin would try to settle other issues between themselves. As an example, the president said that during a conversation about a ceasefire at the White House, he was told Russian propaganda nonsense that supposedly Ukraine was preparing for a new offensive, so it should not be given a pause. Zelensky noted, "I said, I just don't quite understand how we would violate the security guarantees signed with you if we have a real end to the war." He also recalled South and North Korea, noting that the former, with US security guarantees, became a cool country while the latter turned into a hotbed of totalitarianism. Even more than 70 years after the end of hostilities, there is still no final peace agreement there. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky explained why the United States has not yet provided Ukraine with long-range Tomahawk missiles. According to him, the issue is not only the availability of the weapons, but also how they can be used, why the US has not yet provided Tomahawks.
The other story concerns long-range weapons, specifically the Tomahawks. President Trump publicly stated that America needs them. In my view, he does not want escalation with the Russians until he meets with them.
The president added that the question of supplying such weapons is not only about having the arms, but also about their use and coordination.
The issue is not just Tomahawks themselves. The question is how the weapons are used. You can have ATACMS, but how can you actually use them? It is not only about the weapons you have, but how you can employ them. Clearly, it is about military targets and coordination. But the path is yours to choose.
Kyiv coordinates actions with European leaders. Zelensky also said that after his conversation with Trump, Kyiv discussed the matter with European leaders, some of whom plan to appeal to the US administration on their own behalf.
We spoke with European leaders immediately after the meeting with President Trump. They themselves want to make requests to him. We are in constant coordination. During a refueling stop in Ireland, Andriy Yermak, head of the presidential office, contacted all NSAs. They were in communication.
He added that Ukraine is in regular contact with European leaders, jointly forming a common position, and that European partners will continue to approach the United States in various formats. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Support Ukraine, like and subscribe.